Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Mm.
Today we're going to be looking at something pretty fascinating, the intersection of faith entrepreneurship and a seriously huge economic splash.
Sounds intriguing. I'm all ears.
Okay, so we're heading to India for this one, specifically to the Mahakumbh festival. Ever heard of?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's that massive gathering, a pilgrimage, right? Millions of
And
people.
millions is an understatement. Try over 10 million visitors, all converging on one location for a festival that happens only once every few years.
Wow, that's mind-boggling. And the economic impact must be incredible.
You have no idea. We're going to dig into the story of one boatman, Pintu Mara, who earned the equivalent of 4 million US dollars in just 45 days during the festival.
$4 million. A boatman. Now that's a story I got to hear.
That's a good one.
Uh,
It really highlights how faith tradition and a bit of savvy entrepreneurship can create some pretty unbelievable economic outcomes.
so it's not just about being in the right place at the right time. There's more to it.
Exactly. Pintu's story is a perfect example of understanding the potential of an event like this, the sheer scale of it, and then taking a calculated risk.
Okay, so let's break this down. 10 million people driven by faith and tradition all coming together for a limited time. That's got to be an economic engine like no other.
It's like a pop-up megacity with its own economy. It's wild. Think
Mhm.
about all the needs that arise: food, accommodation, transportation services. The list goes on and on.
And Pintu Mara, he was right there, ready to capitalize on that demand.
He was. He started with a fleet of 60 boats, but knowing the scale of the Mahakumbh, he went all in. Sold family jewelry, mortgaged land to expand his fleet to 130 boats.
That's a serious leap of faith. He must have been pretty confident in his plan.
Well, he understood supply and demand. He saw a need to transport pilgrims across the Sangam, the confluence of sacred rivers considered a holy site, and he knew the demand would be huge.
So even if a small percentage of those 10 million attendees needed his services, the sheer volume meant big earnings.
Exactly. We're not talking luxury cruises here. These are essential transport for many pilgrims.
It's fascinating how a traditional occupation like boatmanship can thrive in this context. It's like a modern-day entrepreneurial success story built on ancient traditions.
And it highlights how individuals can benefit from these massive events.
Yeah.
It's not just about big corporations or the government. It's about people like Pintu seizing the opportunity.
It makes me think about the ripple effect, too. It's not just the boatmen, it's the chawallas, the street food vendors, the local artisans. Everyone benefits from this influx of visitors.
Oh, absolutely. The Mahakumbh is an economic ecosystem. It supports livelihoods across all levels.
And we can't forget the role of the government in all of this. They invested a significant amount, roughly 7,500 crore rupees, in infrastructure.
Yeah, roads, sanitation, security, temporary housing. They essentially had to build a city from scratch to accommodate all those pilgrims.
It's a massive logistical undertaking, but it's a strategic investment, too. A well-managed event means a better experience for the pilgrims and a boost to the economy.
The reported economic activity during the Mahakumbh was close to 3 lakh crore rupees. That's about 360 billion US dollars.
Wow, that's a massive return on investment. It really showcases how an event rooted in faith and tradition can have a profound impact on a modern economy.
Absolutely. And it's unlike anything else in the world. The sheer scale of it, the human energy, the economic activity, it's truly remarkable.
It makes you wonder if there are any parallels to be drawn with events in the West.
That's a great question. We'll dive into that in a bit. We'll explore if events like Coachella or Tomorrowland can even come close to the Mahakumbh in terms of impact.
I'm ready when you are. This is fascinating stuff. So you were saying we'd compare this to Western events like Coachella.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, on the surface, it seems like there are some similarities, right? Large gatherings, temporary economies, but something feels different.
The scale is definitely a big factor. The Mahakumbh is just on another level compared to even the biggest music festivals.
Right. And it's not just about the numbers either. There's something about the underlying motivation that sets it apart.
Absolutely. The pilgrims at the Mahakumbh are driven by faith, by a deep desire to connect with their spirituality. That translates into a different kind of spending behavior.
You're saying that faith fuels the economic engine in a way, that pilgrims are more likely to spend because it's tied to their spiritual journey.
Exactly. Think about it. They're not just there for entertainment or leisure. This is a pilgrimage, a deeply meaningful experience. So they're willing to spend on religious offerings, rituals, services, things you wouldn't necessarily find at a music festival.
And there's also the historical and cultural weight of the Mahakumbh. This festival's been happening for centuries. It's a living embodiment of tradition, something that Western festivals just can't replicate.
That's a great point. The Mahakumbh is more than just an event. It's a thread woven into the fabric of Indian culture, and that adds another layer to the economic equation.
It's not just about the temporary influx of visitors. It's about sustaining traditions, supporting communities that have been built around this event for generations.
Speaking of supporting communities, we talked about the government's investment in infrastructure. How does that play out in practice?
We'll take Pintu Mara, for example.
Hmm.
His boat business wouldn't be nearly as successful without accessible waterways, well-maintained ghats, and all the infrastructure that allows for the smooth movement of millions of people.
So it's about creating an environment that supports both the spiritual and the economic aspects of the event.
Exactly. And the benefits extend beyond the festival itself. Improved infrastructure helps the local community long after the pilgrims have left.
It's a long-term investment that paves the way for future economic development, tourism, and trade. It shows that strategic infrastructure investment can have a ripple effect.
It makes you wonder, could other large-scale events learn from the Mahakumbh? Could they replicate this kind of success by understanding the needs and motivations of their attendees and investing in the right infrastructure?
Absolutely. I think there are valuable lessons to be learned, especially when it comes to understanding human behavior and how that drives economic activity.
So it's not just about building the stage, it's about crafting an experience that resonates with the audience on a deeper level.
Whether it's a spiritual pilgrimage or a music festival, the principle remains the same. Create an environment where people are not just willing but eager to engage and spend.
And don't forget the cultural significance. The Mahakumbh draws strength from its deep roots in Indian tradition. Events that tap into that sense of cultural identity are going to have a stronger impact.
It's about offering something unique and meaningful, something that goes beyond the superficial.
This makes me think about the potential of spiritual tourism in general. We've seen the impact of the Mahakumbh, but there are other pilgrimages worldwide that draw huge crowds. The Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca, for example, contributes billions to the Saudi Arabian economy.
It's a global phenomenon that often gets overlooked. Spiritual tourism is a powerful economic driver, especially in developing economies.
It creates jobs, revitalizes communities, and contributes to sustainable growth. It's not just about the money either.
Right. There's a cultural exchange, a sharing of traditions and beliefs when people from all over the world come together for these events.
It's a reminder that economics is about more than just numbers and transactions. It's about people, their cultures, and the values that drive their actions.
And it brings us back to Pintu Mara. His story is more than just a tale of entrepreneurial success.
It's a symbol of how individual initiative, combined with a deep understanding of a cultural event, can unlock incredible economic potential.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most profound economic opportunities lie at the intersection of faith tradition and a keen eye for meeting a need.
So as we delve deeper into this fascinating world of faith-driven economics, what are some other key examples that come to mind?
Well, we've touched upon the Hajj, but consider pilgrimages within India itself. Vaishno Devi, with its challenging mountain trek, draws millions annually.
I've heard of that one. It's quite an undertaking.
It is. Then there's Crorepati, dedicated to Lord Venkateswara, known for its elaborate rituals and attracting devotees from all walks of life.
And of course, Shirdi, the abode of Sai Baba, drawing those seeking solace and blessings.
Each of these pilgrimages, with their unique traditions and deities, contributes to the larger tapestry of India's spiritual and economic landscape.
It's fascinating how these ancient traditions continue to thrive in the modern world. And it's not limited to India either.
Absolutely. Look at the Camino de Santiago in Spain, a centuries-old pilgrimage route attracting people from all over the world.
Or the Vatican City, a global center of Catholicism drawing millions, seeking spiritual guidance and connection.
It seems faith-based tourism is a truly global phenomenon, with the potential to generate economic activity that extends far beyond the immediate event itself.
It's definitely something worth exploring further. So we've seen how faith can be this huge economic driver, but what does this all mean for someone who isn't necessarily religious or, into pilgrimages and all that?
That's where it gets really interesting. See, the lessons we've learned from the Mahakumbh and all these other examples, they can actually apply to a much wider context.
Okay, I like where this is going. Give me an example.
Sure, think about any event or industry that sees a surge in demand. Could be a local farmer's market, a tech conference, even like the release of a new iPhone. The principles are the same. Understand what motivates your audience, anticipate what they need, create an environment that encourages them to engage and spend.
So like tapping into the energy of the moment, finding the Mahakumbh of your own field.
Exactly. And remember how the government invested in infrastructure for the Mahakumbh? Well, in a way, investing in yourself, your skills, your business, that's like laying the foundation for your own growth. It's your personal economic miracle in the making.
It's like Pintu Mara getting ready for that wave of pilgrims by expanding his fleet of boats.
Precisely. He took a risk, but it was calculated based on what he knew about the event. Now, not everyone's going to have a Pintu Mara moment, but the lesson is there. Be observant, anticipate what people need, and be ready to jump when opportunity knocks.
I love that. Be ready to jump when opportunity knocks. That's so true.
And infrastructure is key. Pintu needed those boats, just like a startup needs a good internet connection or a musician needs a well-maintained instrument. You got to have the right tools.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all this?
Well, we started with one boatman's story, but we ended up exploring so much more. The power of faith, the potential of spiritual tourism, but even bigger than that, we saw how those principles of success can apply to anyone, anywhere.
It's not just about religion. It's about understanding what drives people, creating experiences that truly resonate, and investing in the things that help you grow. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a student, an artist, whatever it is, these insights matter.
Here's a final question to ponder. What are the Mahakumbhs in your own life? What are those moments of huge potential, and are you ready to seize them?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. As always, keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll catch you next time.